We want to take a few minutes and talk about Michigan age classifications. It's very important to understand age classifications related to jurisdiction under the law. There's really four major age classifications that everybody falls into, and the first one is called a child. In Michigan, a child is considered to be anyone who's between the ages of a newborn and 7 years of age. Now, in the eyes of the law, a child cannot be held responsible for any crimes, even though they can commit things, and we've heard of the terrible twos and so forth. The fact of the matter is that there's an important legal concept called mens rea, or the guilty mind, which isn't deemed to be developed enough in a child in order to do that. The word child is a legal term and needs to be used appropriately in there too. Children do come under the control of the court in the protection of child abuse and child neglect and custody issues, but holding them responsible as criminals doesn't happen. Once somebody reaches the age of 8, in fact it happens at midnight on their birthday, up until the age of 16, they are classified as a juvenile. And juveniles, at that magic time of 8 until the age of 16, are responsible for all the same laws that adults are. So stealing and robbing and all the other crimes that any adult can be held responsible for, juveniles can be held responsible for and prosecuted as a juvenile. In addition to that, juveniles are also responsible for crimes called status offenses, probably appropriately named. Status offenses are crimes that only juveniles can commit. Things like truancy, running away from home, and curfew. And those are crimes that only juveniles can commit. Once you go beyond the age of 16, none of those apply any longer. So juveniles actually have two levels in there. One is the regular criminal law that we're all responsible for, and they also have this grouping of things called status offenses. Then we come to a magic age in 17, or at 17, that we call a limited adult. And in Michigan, which is very unique, a 17-year-old is considered to be a limited adult. Using fish terms, if we have a fish that we catch from a police standpoint or a fisherman's standpoint, and it's not big enough or old enough, so to speak, what do? We throw them back. But if we have a fish that's big enough, we can keep them, or very often limited adults are called keepers. In Michigan, 17-year-olds are tried as adults. They're treated as adults. They go to jail, they go to prison, they go to adult courts. And however, we say they're limited because obviously they can't do things like enter into contracts, they can't vote, they can't get married without their parents' permission, they can't go into the military. So they have a lot of still limitations there when they're a 17-year-old, but we still treat them as an adult. And then at age 18 and up, we have full-fledged adults. Although some 18 to 21-year-olds would argue that they're still limited in many cases, such as the purchase of alcohol and those kinds of things. But for the most part, 18-year-olds are considered adults in the United States. There are some considerations to remember, as we talked about in class, and the first one being is the fact that not all states consider a 17-year-old an adult. Other states, well, an example being Florida, makes 17-year-old a juvenile, and so the punishment and the penalties may be different in those circumstances. The other major consideration is the fact that these are Michigan age classifications, and that we have to be careful when we read things, we watch things on TV, we see things through the media. That if we see news reports from another state and it conflicts with something we think to be true in Michigan or that we learned in this class, we got to make sure that it's matched up, that Michigan has certain standards and we call things differently as opposed to other states. So that's just a quick overview of age classification, specifically having to do with Michigan.